My name is Jim Eddy. I was born in Thunder Bay, 1920. Just rather humdrum, really. Nothing exceptional. I was in high school. I was getting ready to go to university. Then the war came along, of course. It was Depression years, you know, in the 30s. But we had a lot of fun. In Thunder Bay we have a mountain. We do a lot of skiing in the wintertime. And then there's a lot of summer sports. So we kept busy. We liked it up there. It's very, very different than here in Toronto. It's much more open. A little different than here in Toronto. Toronto's kind of a big city and lots of activity. We had a lot of activity, but more or less confined. And I kind of liked it there. The nearest big city was Winnipeg, and then the American cities, Minneapolis and Duluth and St. Paul at the American side. So, and then Toronto was quite a ways away, so most people would go to either the States or to Winnipeg if they wanted to go for a trip. But I kind of liked it in Thunder Bay. We had a very nice high school, and a very active principal, and it was called Fort William Collegiate Institute, and I went there until they kicked me out. And very nice school, very nice teachers, and very interested teachers. You know, they were interested in us. Well, I think I was dragged out. More or less. Yeah, I was on the basketball team. Played hockey. We had, in Thunder Bay in the wintertime, hockey's a big item. Played baseball, not too much baseball though. But there's always a lot of sports going on. Yeah, great teams come out of Thunder Bay. One brother, yeah. He was about a year older than me. Pretty much, yeah. We knew something was going on, yeah, in Europe, and we heard about Hitler. And we knew that a war was coming eventually, unless something happened. Although it didn't seem to affect us up there as much as it would down here in Toronto. You were more aware of it down here, but we were aware of the world situation. Well, at that time, what they were doing, as boys like myself became certain age, if they hadn't already joined the Army or the Air Force, they were enrolled in it. And I joined the Air Force because I knew eventually my age I would have to go in the Army, and I wanted to go into the Air Force. So we knew there was a war on, and we knew something had to be done, so we did it. Because I wanted to fly. I didn't want to go in the Army, so marching. In my estimation, the Air Force was a step above the Army. I had one problem though, I had bad eyesight. And at that time, there weren't except people in air crew who had defective eyesight. But about a year and a half later, they changed it. They would accept people with a certain defect in their eyesight, and they would give them eyeglasses. So I got into air crew. Well, they weren't too concerned because they know eventually that would happen eventually. You know, as long as my health was good, I would eventually have to join either the Army or the Air Force. And I did want to get into the Air Force, so I took the step and beat them to it. As you probably know, they established the British Commonwealth Air Training. That included all the British countries. And they came to Canada. The reason they came to Canada was on account of the vast training areas they had on the prairies. And they had a lot of airports out there. So they set it up, and they did a very good job because they brought people from all over, Australia, New Zealand, and all over into Canada to train. And it worked very well.
It's 1939. A momentous agreement known as the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan is signed between the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada to rapidly increase the Allies' air combat resources. Canada is chosen as the plan's primary site because of its ample supplies of fuel and industrial facilities, its wide open spaces, and the unlikelihood of an enemy attack. During its 5-year execution, the plan exceeds all expectations. With the training of more than 130,000 aircrew and some 44,000 ground crew, including 17,000 women. Of all the newly trained pilots, half are Canadian. It's a life-altering event for 231 training sites across Canada, which are invaded with the constant drone of aircraft and men and women from all over the country and the Commonwealth. They all come together, bound under one purpose, to defeat the Germans in the skies. Sir Winston Churchill would later refer to the plan as Canada's greatest contribution to the Allies' victory.
Just the usual Army stuff, and then you would gradually evolve into the Air Force part of it, and air training would take over. Air training is rather intensive because, to a certain degree, it is a dangerous air training, especially with young people, and there are a lot of accidents. A lot of people get hurt and killed, so they have to be very careful. The Army is a bit different. They can train people without too much killing, but in the Air Force, when you have a crash, you usually kill somebody. Got into a lot of tight spots, but got out of them. I passed my test, but the pilot, the chief flying instructor said to me, "Jim," he says, "I'll let you go on to the next level if you want, but I'll tell you something. You'll either kill yourself or kill somebody else." And I thanked him very much for a very nice recommendation, and I became a navigator. I guess he wasn't too impressed with my flying ability, but I like flying those Tiger Moths. In my estimation, flying a Tiger Moth is about the only real way you get to fly. When you get in the big aircraft, you're just sitting like you're on Chesterfield. But when you're flying a Tiger Moth, you're flying, and I like flying Tiger Moths.
Shocks are taken away, and we taxi into position to take off. The takeoff is always made into wind. And this type of aeroplane leaves the ground at approximately 40 miles an hour. There is a left-hand turn, left bank and left rudder. A right-hand turn, right bank and right rudder. Now you are in the air too. The controls are so sensitive and move so slightly that it is quite impossible to see their movements. As in taking off, we always land into wind. With the engine throttled back, we glide gently towards the ground, and again, at about 40 miles an hour, the machine drops lightly onto the aerodrome.
Then I flew the Anson. Then we come to the Wellington, the one on the right there. And then I flew in that big one in the center is the Lancaster, is the one I flew in it, and that's the one I was shot down in. In England? I think it was early '44. They took us down to Montreal and got on the boat and went to England. Then they took us down to Bournemouth, which was the holding station, and then from there we went to the squadron. I kind of forget, I think it might have been a convoy, but at that time there was some problem with the E-boats or the submarines, and they had to diverse them in certain ways in order not to be sitting ducks, so to speak, but we got across okay, although some of the ships did get hit, and we did have some losses. But it was kind of course, on this boat I was on, I think there was 10,000 people. That's a lot of people on a boat. They had a bar. That helped.
What else would you do?
Stand by the rail and look at the water.
Any cards?
Yeah, some card, not too much though. There was a little bit of gambling, not too much. So it didn't seem to be boring though. Out on a ship, you know, there's always something to do. Even just looking at the water is an item. I was never bored, although some guys might have been. I made quite a few. I made a lot of friends in the squadron, but then of course in the squadron they come and they go, you know, they're here today and gone tomorrow. But I still have some friends from my Air Force days. Yeah, there's one guy, I didn't know him in the squadron, he was in the squadron earlier, Al Wallace, maybe you know. Yeah, he was a much before my time, but and I got to know him here at Sunnybrook, but a hell of a nice guy.
Yeah, very much.
He told us nothing because it was very hush hush. It was a fiasco really, and they should never have had the up, so they wanted to keep it quiet. But we knew what was going on, and why we couldn't quite figure out why they would do it, but they did it, and their losses were quite heavy, I think, quite heavy. Well, I was in the Air Force, so we were in our battles were, you know, to do with flying, and I can remember the flights we did and the bombings we did. Can't remember them too vividly though, but some of the fellows got shot down, got killed. Friends, you know. No, it didn't seem to scare us at all. Didn't scare me anyway. But as we got older, as you look back on it, you can see it was scary. Because people were dying around you and guys you were chummy with were gone. But at the time it didn't affect you, you just moved on. We're on a trip and the airplane got hit. And the navigator, he stands behind the pilot. The pilot gave the order to bail out because the plane was going down and going down pretty fast. So in Lancaster, there's a place there behind the pilot with a window. I just put my parachute on and jumped out and landed in trees. This guy at the bottom of the tree, he was there. I guess he saw the airplane go over. He saw the parachute come down. He said, he grabbed me and said, for you the war is over. And I said, you're not kidding. But he took me to a farmer's house. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. And this was in Germany. And the guy he put me with, he could speak English. Nice fella. Very nice. But he says, what you need is a drink of schnapps. So we bought this bottle out and poured me a drink. And of course I was only a kid. Ooh, of course, I says, that's bitter. Do you know what he did? He took the damn thing and drank it himself. Very, very friendly guy, though. Very nice to me. One of the things when you're flying, you want to make sure that everything is in order. Like now, we have a harness for the parachute. And on the harness, it comes around here, and there's 2 hooks here. Well, some guys, what they do, they take the harness, and instead of putting the thing in the hooks, they bring it around here, so that when they put the parachute on, there's nothing to hold them, and they go right through, and that's curtains. So when you want to make sure that what you're doing is everything done according to the way it should be done, not the way, not the quick, easy way. And I always made sure that the harness was on correctly, and I always made sure that my parachute was handy in case of an emergency, so I could grab it and put it on. But if you had to start looking for it, Some guy get on the aircraft and just throw the parachute there. Well, if you start looking for it, it's too late. You haven't got the time, because time, at that time is really of an essence. You gotta know where things are, and you gotta know what to do, and you gotta do it quickly. Because if you start to ponder, you're dead. You're dead in the water.